My name is Simbarashi Gojo. In 2009, I was just somebody who was living my life. I would rather say my life for the day. After having a nice time with the guys, it was just normal for me to go home, watch television, and then by that time, the television that we were watching, there was that free to air channels aired by these free to air satellite dishes. But fortunately enough for me, that very day, as I had watched so many, discussing so many programs, Christian programs with my wife, though I was secular, drinking, and she was going to church, Salvation Army, if I may specify, I got some questions when we were just studying, but then I did not have answers. Then, fortunately, one day when I was watching this channel, God channel on the Wistek satellite dish, it so happened that there came an interesting program. There was a preacher preaching on Daniel chapter 2. Surprise, surprise. It just did not end as history. It was relating to the future. It took me by surprise that the Bible could talk about the future. So, with that interest, I asked my wife again, as she was my point of, I would rather say she was the source of any religious information I wanted. But when I asked her about Daniel 2, she told me one thing I'm just used to hearing, that those books, Daniel and Revelations, they're so hard they cannot be understood. So it just happened that I was now from the starting point again, nobody to tell me. As my teacher or as my person whom I would ask did not know anything. But fortunately enough, on this program, I heard new things. But now, when I asked my wife, because I did not record anything, nobody could tell me. But fortunately enough for me, I thank the Lord. It so happened again on the same television, but now on a different channel. It was now a new channel which was being aired, Eden Life. Again, a preacher came on this station. He was preaching on Daniel chapter 2 again. And this time now, as if he was copying the other presenter I saw, he did not even change from what the other presenter talked about. It was all the same story. It started an inquiry in my heart, where can I get this information? But fortunately enough for me, on this channel again, there came more presentations. That's when I got introduced to the late Mark Woodman and Professor Walter Vade's presentations and lectures. And I got hooked on them. But I could just tell that there was just something they were relating to. They were talking of one book in particular they were taking as a reference point. The book, The Great Controversy. What about this book? I've never heard about it. It's not the Bible, but they were quoting this book freely, and there were many quotations I could tell from that book that I needed to know. But where could I get this book? Fortunately enough for me, I knew that any book could be found in any bookshop or in any library. But this was not to be. The day came that I needed to get this book. The Spirit impressed on me that I should find this book so that I could find this truth for myself, which was being talked about. As I could relate that what I am seeing in the Christian religious circles, I can say I thought I knew something from the secular side, even though I was secular myself. My parents went as secular. My late father, I cannot say much, but then my late mother, she was indeed a religious woman. She went to Methodist Church and she tried to instill some values to us, but I did not even consider much about going to church. I should think only the time I would go to church was probably on funerals. But this time now, I needed somebody who was from church to tell me what's happening. Then I went on my search to find this book, The Great Controversy. I was staying then in Greendale, where I was renting. Went into town, started looking for the book from the main bookshops or booksellers that I could think of. When that time, the main one was Kingston's. And I went there thinking that I would just easily get the book, just like as I would get any religious book. But sad to say, I was told that they did not know the book and were still the author of the book, Ellen White. How come when these presenters, Mark Goodman, Walls of Age, Sean Boomstra, these people, they were talking of this writer as an authority, as someone who has written so many things, but then these people are telling me they don't even know him. Anyway, I continued my search. I went from Kingston's to many other bookshops. But surprise, surprise, from the first one to the second one, to the third one, to the fourth one, to the fifth one. And guess what? I went into town around 10. And I walked from 10 in the morning up to 2:30 in the afternoon, and there was nothing I had found. And now, dejected as I was, that I was trying to find something which was not anywhere in Zimbabwe. But a bell just rang in my mind, and I remembered that there was this certain bookshop near the main post office. That's where I was when I was now thinking of going home. And in Angwa Street, there was now one bookshop that I hadn't gone to, textbook sales. And that one was the last bookshop I wanted to go to check. And when I entered into it and I checked and I didn't find anything, I could not say how heartbroken I was. But yeah, that bell rang in my head. There's a bookshop somewhere near. I remembered because I had tried to send a registered mail some time back, and I had bought some envelopes from a certain bookshop near, and this was opposite St. Maximum. This is now what I'm talking about, our ABC bookshop. Fortunately for me, the bookshop was there, and I went inside. But now, unlike the other places, other bookshops I had gone, I was kind of shy. I was not so sure that I would find what I'm looking for. And I asked in a very low voice if they had the book, The Great Controversy. Surprise to surprise for me, the attendant just simply pointed when I was looking down, doing his calculations, that the book was on the shelf to my back. And if I would look to my left, I would see the book. And surely indeed, there was the paperback edition of The Great Controversy. Thank God. And as I was taking the book for me to pay, I met long-time schoolmate, now will come literature evangelist, Ivoma Faune. And now when I was holding this book, he asked me what I was doing in this bookshop. And I told him that I was looking for the truth, and I had to be frank because I was now confused. And he told me to return the book, The Great Controversy. And I asked him, why? What's your problem? Now, this is the book I'm looking for because I know the truth I'm looking for is this book. And he told me, my dear friend, just return that book. I can give him something much better. And I told him that could never be anything better than the book I was looking for. Let me read it first, digest it. Then if it's not better for me, if he had anything else, you would give me. But he insisted that I return the book. And he presented to me this book, this I have here, which is The History of Redemption. And his reason for him giving me this book, he said, the Great Controversy is contained again in this book because there are 10 volumes in this book. There are other 10 books in this book of the same author. So for me to buy this book, I would have bought a bargain because the series contained in this book was enough for me to know the truth I was looking for. So I've asked me whether I had the money, but there was no incentive for me to take this book. But as he told me that this book had an accompanying chart, when he opened the chart for me to just look at it, I saw the statue of chapter 2, Daniel, the statue. And this was what I was seeing from the presentations. And I did not wait and even care about how much the money was for the book, and I bought it. And as I was about to leave, I bumped into Pastor Masevo, who was then facilitating or in charge of the runnings of the ABC shop, and he stopped me to ask me again what I wanted to know of in this book. Then I told him plainly that I just wanted to read the book, The Great Controversy. And he took 15 minutes to explain to me that I have to start from the first book, Patriarchs and Prophets, up to the book, Great Controversy. Prayerfully, when I went home, in the combi that I was, I tried to open the book, The Great Controversy, to read, but it could not make sense for me. Why? I did not know. But when I got home, this is something new for me. I said I was secular from the beginning. I was drinking, watching television, having my beers there. My wife even discussing the Bible there. But now this book, I had my beers there. I'm not Seventh-day Adventist yet. But what am I doing with this book? Guess what? When I got home, I prayed. A funny prayer. God, help me understand. That was the simplest prayer I just prayed. I don't know what I'm getting into. Just help me understand. And I started from Patriarchs and Prophets up to the Great Controversy. And from then on, I never regretted it. Why I say so? I never asked for God for power to stop drinking or to stop any legal substances or anything just to get me high. I never asked God to stop that for me. But one thing which surprises me, the more I read, the more I hated my past life. And the more I hated my past life, the more I loved Jesus. Sad to say, for my old friends, they could see the change. One day, when we were going for a drink, as we say, we were discussing the Bible. Then one other guy in that drinking place was so drunk, he started cursing anything in the Bible, anything from the Bible. It's lies and whatever. But this is where I'm talking of. We were in a drinking place where there are beers, people are. But I was surprised. I was like, now a person who does not drink, now I'm relating the Bible and whatever is. Then I just asked God, this is not what is supposed to be. Change my sin. As I was going home, I met a young man who stayed in my neighborhood. Then I told him about this book, The Great Controversy, that I was reading, and much of the Ellen White writings I was reading. And he started laughing at me. And I asked him, what was so funny about it? Then he just told him, Goma, my brother, you are now SDA. And I told him, what is SDA? And he said, SDA is a community of faith of Seventh-day Adventists. And he said, what about them? They don't drink them. And I'm surprised you drink. That's why you're coming from the pub there and you don't want anything to do with beer. Because you're now in SDA. And I said, I'm not SDA, and I don't even know a church which is SDA. Where is it? And when do they go to church? And where? And he told me they go to church on Saturday. Where? Tells me in Greendale, where I drink, opposite days the church. And I thank God I just transferred. Changed from Jolly Goodfellas to any person who knows Greendale to the Greendale Seventh-day Adventist Church. And that is how I became one member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And this is my story of how media and the Great Controversy turned me to be a member of this great church.